Nothing? Nothing? You got to have the hollow.
I was hoping it was Marcelo walking in the door, but no.
Good thing we're all friends, right?
I know. I love it that we're all friends. So, anyways, welcome you guys. We have Darren Jensen tonight, and he's going to be talking about Thanksgiving leftovers and any other questions you guys may have. So, we are so glad you're here, and we would like to welcome Darren. Give him a yeah.
Well, thank you. I have to say, before I get started, I was coming to visit Celeste to drop off some more books, and there was two couples. So I came in the door and I was standing behind them. You remember, from Colorado Springs, and so Celeste was attending them, and the one they were probably in their late 70s maybe, and the one lady turned around and looked at me, and then she turned back around, and then she kind of nudged the lady next to her, and then she turned around and looked at me, and then the other lady turned around and goes, "It's him." And I'm going, yeah, it is me. And well, they just happened to be buying my book, and they drove here from Colorado Springs, and they were buying this, and they said, "Oh, will you sign our book?" And anyway, I couldn't get my head back in my truck after that, because it's like, oh man, I've got a following. Taylor Swift has nothing on me. So, but it was cute. It was cute. So I signed their books and everything. So anyway, welcome. Tonight we're going to be talking about Thanksgiving and anything else you want to talk about. I don't want anybody leaving today without asking any question, any freeze-dried question at all. Let's make sure that you go home and with those answers. So, if you don't know my background, I own a freeze-dry manufacturing company. So we manufacture freeze-dried food for a lot of different venues, and from food storage to offices to senior care facility, any place that wants to use freeze-dried food on a daily basis, that's what we provide. So, and we're just right down the street actually. So not very far from here. So also, I am a certified Harvest Right technician, and I do all of their warranty work outside of Harvest Right. So if you have a machine that's under warranty and you need it fixed and you don't want to pack it up the stairs and haul it into Harvest Right, you can call them, and they'll open up a ticket, run you through some red tape, and then if they need to send me out to fix it, I'll come out and fix it, and we'll have some fun.
Does
Yes,
Harvest Right make great big huge freeze dryers for you, or how do you freeze dry your
they
food?
do.
Do they?
So we use their commercial lines. I also have other units, some smaller ones, but yeah, we use the XLs um, in our manufacturing facility. Yes,
So if your machine's not under warranty, can we still do the same thing and have you come out and just pay for your service?
you don't have to call Harvest Right. Oh, yes. Do I need to use this? Okay. So the question was, if you have if you're not under warranty, then you can call me directly. You can get on my website, wasatchfreezedry.com, and open a ticket or send me a message basically and say, hey, my freeze dryer's not working, and I'll give you a call right back. Or if you have my card, also just give me a call. And then we'll just arrange the time. Usually I can get out to you same day, next day. It's really up to your schedule, but I drop everything I'm doing to come see you. So I know when you're freeze drying and your machine goes down, especially in the fall when you're trying to get everything processed, timing's of the essence. So we try to get out to you as quickly as possible so that you don't lose any productivity. I've seen so many people just in tears because their garden oh, my garden's almost done and my machine's been broken for months and I can't get in, and I just found out about you, and we're there the next day. So yeah, when you're an addict like we are, your freeze dryer, you can't sleep at night if it's not running, right? Yes.
How often do they break down?
All depends on the machine, really. The classic machines, which is the older machines. So there's two different styles of machines available. Well, in the market right now, there's what's called the classics. So if you have a medium freeze dryer and it has 4 trays, that's a classic. If it's a large machine and it has 5 trays, that's a classic. The Pro versions, which came out a year ago, July, have an extra tray. And so the medium has 5 trays, so you get 25% more productivity out of it. Okay? Same thing with the large and the extra large. They have the extra trays. The electronics are also much more robust. So if you have or had a classic, you probably have had some problems and you've had to call Harvest Right and things. But I'm telling you, the Pro versions are awesome. I fix classics all the time. Pros, for the last year and a half, I've probably only fixed maybe 5. And, they sell probably 3,000 to 4,000 machines a week. So if you make that percentage, the QA is really good. The quality is really good on the Pro version. So a lot of people will call me and say, hey, will you sell my classic? Because I want to buy a Pro. And so it's something I do for people that want to upgrade. Okay, good question.
So Costco just sold a bunch or had a bunch. Small. Were they classic or pro?
They're Pros. You cannot buy classics anymore. So they've moved to the newer versions, and but I'm not sure about the Costco ones are small. You can special order the other sizes, but the ones in stock are just smalls.
We're just starting out, so we're just here to learn. Just when we turn it on.
Yeah,
The people online can't hear me.
okay.
Thank you. Can you repeat that for the
Well-
people online?
We just started out with our first freeze dryer. We haven't even turned it on yet, so we wanted to come to your class and then we'll get started.
So what size do you have?
Small.
A small? Okay, so you have 4 trays.
It's got 5 on the picture. I think it's got 5. I
If
could
you
be
have
wrong.
5 trays, you have a medium.
No, then it's 4, I guess.
Well, I think
It's
he's
four.
got the pro.
They're all pro now.
Well, the picture on the manual is all the same, no matter what you get.
We
So,
have 4 trays, but we got it at Costco's.
okay, so you have a small, and the smalls are a good size. I would not recommend a small classic; just doesn't do enough. But the Pro Classic or the Pro Small, you can actually get quite a bit of productivity out of them, especially if it's just for the 2 of you. Yeah, they're perfect. So, all right, let's move on. Okay, so a lot of the things that we're going to cover today are either in my book, and I have some more up here. I think Celeste has some at the front desk that you can get, but it has a lot of condensed information about freeze drying. A lot of the meaty stuff that I teach in my classes, and I've tried to strip out all of the chapters of words and just made it really condensed, so it's easy to. You don't have to be reading all night long just to have a quick answer. Okay. All right. All right, we talked about who we are. My website, wasatchfreezedry.com, you can go there and take a look. If you want to buy a freeze dryer from Food Storage Depot, you can have it delivered by me. There's a $175 fee for that. And what I do is I pick up your freeze dryer, bring it out to your house, I set it up for you, I train you on it, and then if there's any issues or you have any questions at all, you can feel free to call me, text me anytime, and I get people all the time texting me about, oh, I'm doing this, and what do you think, or what should I look out for? Like carrots. We were talking about carrots earlier, so so that you don't waste food. And if you're unsure, then you can just text me. But those are the things I cover.
Big Mike. Okay, there it is. And then I'm just going to add one more thing here. With everybody who purchases a freeze dryer here, we save you thousands, or not thousands, hundreds of dollars with something we give you guys. We actually pay the tax for you, which saves you about what, $300 to $500 typically. Which you can take that, and we can actually apply it towards the $175. Does that make sense? Or you can use that for that. But we basically give you a credit in the store to be able to use that money to buy anything you want to. So it becomes a win-win for everyone. So you get, yeah, if you're a member. Yep.
Yeah. And you guys were asking about membership earlier. So you can talk to Celeste afterwards and get a blood test application or what. I don't know what you take to to get a membership, but oh, just an email. Okay. Yes.
We did it that way, and it was the best thing we ever did. It was up and running before you left.
Use the microphone,
for
people online. Just press it quickly once.
I said we bought it through here and had you come out. It was up and running before you ever left.
Yep.
And we've had no problems. It was so good.
Yeah, and it's a good point. Now, Harvest Right, you don't get a lot of documentation, and I tell people this before too, is there's quite a few videos out on YouTube. Be very careful about what you watch on YouTube. I've seen so many people buy Harvest Right, go, oh, we're going to start a channel, and they'll start a channel, and I'll watch some of their videos. It's like, I hope people do not follow that, or do what they say, because that's not the way you should be doing it. There's a lot more to it, and so anyway, I'll leave it at that. All right, so again, there's books here. You can get them on Amazon. They're at the front desk. Okay, let's talk about Thanksgiving, because I tend to ramble. So you in the back row, if I'm rambling, just go like this, and I'll go to the next subject, right? So Thanksgiving, we all love Thanksgiving. I know when we do Thanksgiving, we'll do a couple different turkeys. We'll deep fry a turkey, and then we'll smoke a turkey as well. But two big birds for my family, we do pretty well at getting rid of all of them, but we always have leftovers. So let's talk about Thanksgiving leftovers and anything else you want to bring up. If you have another food that we don't specifically talk about, I'd be happy to answer the question, but we're going to talk about Thanksgiving mainly today. So let's talk about Tom, right? So this is my Tom right here. It's chicken turkey. So has anybody taken a turkey from Thanksgiving or just done one just because they wanted to do it and freeze-dried it? Anybody freeze-dried a turkey or bits of turkey before?
Pieces of turkey, my leftovers.
Okay. What were the pieces?
Just the breast meat.
Just the breast meat? Was it a full turkey and you boned it and everything?
Yeah, and sliced it up. I sliced up my turkey and put it on my pan and.
Put it in the oven, right?
Well, no, I mean
In the freeze dryer.
After it was.
Yeah. Yes. And you've done it? Okay. How'd it turn out?
Great.
Okay. So
I rinsed mine first though.
you rinsed it?
Yeah, because it with the fat on the outside of it. So I rinsed it. I put my stuffing in the tray, rinsed the meat, and then put some cranberry in it. And my husband said it was delicious.
Okay. So if you didn't hear, she rinsed the turkey after you cooked it and then before you put it on the tray. So you took the meat, rinsed it, and put it on the tray and then freeze-dried it. Well, let's talk about that process on Mr. Tom. So I'm going to use this as an example. So a little Q&A first. So what have you heard about freeze-drying a whole bird like that? Because if you put this bird in your freeze dryer, it'll shrink it to about this big. Right? No? No? Yeah.
You want small pieces so that lots of surface area for the
water vapor to escape from the frozen.
Yes. Okay. So let's start talking about the prep time. So, we all, once dinner's over and we look at across the table and there's all this food that we want to save because we don't want to waste it. And it's like, well, that will go great for the holidays. So we need to prepare it so that it stays good. And so if you have part of a bird like this, let's talk about what you want to do to ensure that that's going to freeze dry effectively. Now, what was your name? Jan? Jan. So what Jan said is she rinsed it. So why would you rinse it? What's the purpose? The fat. So where's the fat located on the bird?
Under the skin.
In the skin, right? In the skin. That's where, so one thing you don't want to freeze dry is the skin. It's full of fat. And even though it's rendered out by cooking, it's still going to retain some of that fat. So you want to remove all of the skin from the bird. The next thing, there's 2 types of meat on a bird. What colors we got? Dark meat and white meat, right? So the breast meat works really well, right? If you can take the skin off, take the breast off. If you want to rinse it, you can. If you want to just cut it out and dice it up or slice it up, you can. The breast meat does really well. The problem comes with the dark meat. So the dark meat, why is it dark? What's that?
Moist.
It's moist, but what makes it dark?
It's a different protein.
It's a different protein with lots of fat and oil. So what you want to make sure you do is keep your dark meat and your white meat separate. Now we know that dark meat's a superior meat, right?
Of course.
Yes, I love the legs and thigh. Yes, but they will not freeze dry and store near as long as the white meat because they have so much fat. Now, when you take a leg out, there's sinews in it, there's gristle in it, and you cannot get it all out. And plus the meat has much more oil in it. So if you freeze dry that, it's going to go rancid much quicker than white meat. So freeze dry them. You can freeze dry them on the same tray. Just don't bag them in the same or package them in the same package. Does that make sense? Because your dark meat's just not going to last. Okay? Question so far? Yes.
How long does it last? Oh, sorry. How long does it last, the dark meat versus white?
So that is a great question because no one has that answer. I can give you approximates, but I don't know how you cooked your turkey. I don't know how well you got the sinews out and the fat chunks out. I can't tell you how long yours is going to last. And let me expand on that a little bit more because no one can tell you in this room how long your food's going to last in food storage if that's what you're doing for the exact same reasons, right? We don't know if you had a cat that was in the backyard that ran across the yard and stepped in some stuff and then jumped on your counter, ran across your food while you were in the bathroom, and then you bagged all that stuff up. Sounds gross? Sorry. But those are the things that I can't include. There's so many factors in your own home. Do you have a HEPA filter in your house? Do you have, I don't know. Did you clean your machine before you started it? Did you have mold? Do you have, things like that? So it's very difficult to answer that question. On the average, dark meat may last 1 to 3 years. White meat, you can go clear up to 25 years. It all depends on the type of meat, where you got it, how you cooked it, how you prepared it, how you treated it. That makes sense? So I don't mean to kind of sidestep everything, but understanding the factors and preparing it and bagging it the right way will give you the best chance of having it last in the longest duration. Okay? Other questions about that? Obviously, no bones, right? If you want bone broth and things like that, you're going to have to boil those bones and then freeze dry the liquid. But no bones, they don't freeze dry. Okay? Any other questions on the bird? We're going to move on, okay? All right, so the next thing, now I did some turkey breast. Okay, it's chicken, I know, but and I did leave some of the skin on. So did I do it wrong? There you go. So you can freeze dry certain things, but if you have the notion that everything is going to last, everything freeze dried is going to last 25 or 30 years, then that's not going to happen. Okay, so depending on certain things. So let's go a little further with that. So this, do you know what this is? I'm asking. So yeah, it's some people call it that. No, it is stuffing, but I was hoping my family wasn't here. My son's here. He is an incredible chef, and my wife is an incredible chef and cook, and we make everything from scratch. But in my haste, I went and bought $1 box of stuffing, and I won't tell you what brand, but anyway, I just wanted it to show, right? This works really well. Stuffing freeze dries really well. What will cut the life of your stuffing?
The butter.
Butter or oils, fats. What do you use to make gravy? Drippings, which is fat. So what's that? So all of those factors. So she said, if you didn't hear, if you cook your stuffing inside your turkey, so you're going to pull some fat in. If you use lots of butter, some butter's okay, but if you use different oils and things to fry, or you're using your drippings, all of those things are going to contribute to the longevity of your food. So again, I can't tell you how long this is going to last. However, knowing what I read in this on the box, this is probably, it could have been made back in the Egyptians' time of all the preservatives in it. So, you know, it's.
Do you use preservatives to make your stuff ever? It's all organic, natural, all the good things.
All, you mean our food that we manufacture? All of our food, some of it's organic where possible, but we don't add any preservatives. We don't even add sodium because a lot of folks that buy our food are sodium intolerant, or they have to have very little sodium. So it's salt to taste. And so if you like a lot of sodium, you're just gonna have to throw a little bit on it. What sodium we use Redmond's real salt in our food. So stuffing. It looks like just crumbles. If you add water to this and stir it up, it's just like who's done the mix out of the like stovetop stuffing and stuff. I mean, they're all the same. If you've done one, that's what you just made, right? So your homemade stuffing will be just the same. It's going to taste so much better, right? So it's going to be crumbly like this, but as soon as you start adding the moisture to it and give it a little stir with a fork, it's going to puff right back up and it's going to look great. Now, the question that I get a lot is, yeah, but it's bread, right? So it's just going to fall apart. Well, most people toast or really dry out their stuffing bread, right? For most of you. And so it'll be just like this. And it'll be crumbly and it will be very easily reconstituted, and you shouldn't taste it any different. Okay? What do we got?
Mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes. Oh, well, they're not mashed yet. They were. Again, mashed potatoes, the way I do storage mashed potatoes is I just do potato powder. I don't put anything, I don't make a mashed potatoes if you want to store it, for one. Why is that?
If you have lots of cream and butter, if
Correct.
you make good potatoes.
So again, what you have in it will determine the longevity of it. So now if you're doing leftovers from Thanksgiving dinner, then you probably have mashed potatoes that have butter, and some people put sour cream in it, or not sour cream, but cream cheese, and different things in it. That's introducing fats and oils. So will it last 25 years? No. Will it last several years? Probably, depending on how much you put in it. But so it is easy to store it or to freeze dry it from Thanksgiving dinner. But if you're going to do mashed potatoes long term, just boil your potato chunks, mash them up, put them on your tray, and then powder them up after they come out. Don't put anything on them. Don't make them mashed potatoes. Just make potato powder. And when you pull that back out, rehydrate them with water, then put your butter and onion, salt, whatever you put in it, in them, and they will taste wonderful. And those will last almost forever. Okay? All right, any questions on the potatoes? Gravy, very good, very good. So, 25 years? Not even close. A couple years, I would say. How would you know if you open the bag and you've saved your gravy, how would you know if it's good? Smell it. You're going to open it up, and if it smells rancid, that's going to be a telltale sign. Now, sometimes, especially with those types of oils disguised in seasonings and stuff, you may not be able to tell by just opening the pack and smelling it. But when you put warm water on it, smell it again. And if it smells like gravy, probably good to go. If it looks like you hid your wig in the bag, it's probably not good. It grew something, right? So gravy, lots of drippings, lots of fat, especially if it's homemade, because it's not going to have a lot of preservatives in it. If you've got it out of a can or, some a bat or a mix, then it has more preservatives in it. Probably lasts a little bit longer, but again, it's probably not going to last that long. Sweet potatoes or yams, right? Who knows the difference? What's the difference? What's that? Color? Does anybody know the difference between yams and sweet potatoes?
It's related to the morning glory plant, and the other is a different plant.
I didn't know that. So that you won't get an argument from me. Sounds good though. So I'm not sure there is a difference. I think sweet potatoes are sweeter. Yams are more like squash in their flavor. However, I think a lot of people for Thanksgiving do the same thing. What do you add to these? Marshmallows and butter, right? What's that?
Brown sugar.
And brown sugar. So the sugars are okay, but it's the butter and the marshmallows and things with oil in them that are going to make these go bad the quickest. So if you want to save these the longest, scoop off those marshmallows or just know that they're not going to last for years. They're going to last, for a lot of years. They'll probably last for a year or so. Okay? But these were powdered. These were just like mashed potatoes. pour a little hot water in them, mix them up, and you'd never know that they were freeze-dried. Okay? All right. Anybody know what this is? So it's just corn. Obviously, we have our vegetables that go around the table, and everything from corn to beans to bean casserole. I think one of the staple dishes is a string bean casserole, right? Does everybody do string bean casserole? You put the onion straws on it and everything. So do you add anything to those that would extend the life or that would shorten the life of them? Yep. Also, the texture is not going to be quite the same. So they're going to be a little bit more mushy. But we can expect that because usually green beans, unless you've done your own and you snapped your own beans, you probably got your beans out of a can, which they were pasteurized. In other words, they were cooked in the can. So they're already been cooked once. So when you cook them in your soups and things, then it's going to help diminish the life of those because it's going to make them softer and softer over time. So when you go to rehydrate those, they're going to be soft. So the texture is going to be affected there too. Okay. So let's talk about some vegetables because I'm going to insert the party tray, right? The carrots, the olives, the celery sticks, the appetizers, right? That everybody snacks on while mom fixes dinner. So we was talking a little bit up here about carrots, and someone said, I freeze-dried some carrots and they were bitter, right? Anybody else done carrots? Okay. So you may have heard this story if you've been in my other classes, but I got a call from a lady. I fixed her machine, and about 2 weeks later, she called me up and says, hey, my machine's broken again. I said, well, what's wrong with it? She goes, oh, I'm getting a message, and it's been running for 60 hours. I'm going, 60 hours? What do you got in it? She goes, carrots. And she had a large machine, and she had bought baby carrots. And she had stacked them up. They were probably at least 3 high, and rows of carrots on every single tray. And I said, well, what are you going to do with the carrots? She goes, I don't know. I just wanted them. And I said, well, let's talk about this. And so I explained to her, so let's talk about the carrots for a minute. So raw carrots are hard, very dense. So let's just say that those carrots did freeze dry, totally dry, got all the moisture out of them. You would have to put those carrots in water and put them in your fridge for probably 3 to 4 months to get water back in the middle of those, right? They're just too dense. And if they did, they'd probably be a little bitter. So it's important as you're freeze drying to think about what you want to do with that type of food. Root vegetables or raw vegetables should be blanched. Blanching carrots will change the composition of the sugar structure. That will make them sweeter. Everybody know what blanching is? So blanching is basically a quick boil. So not only in this example should they have sliced them up so that they're smaller, but by blanching them, it would make them sweeter. So blanching them means throwing them in a pot of boiling water for about 90 seconds. Maybe a little bit longer depending on how big your pieces are, maybe a little shorter. If you by blanching them and then freeze drying them, when you go to use them, you can now, especially if they're carrot pennies, then you can just eat them and they will be awesome without rehydrating them. Or you could just dump them in a soup or a stew and they'll be all ready to go and they'll taste great. So carrots, asparagus, parsnips, potatoes, if you're making potato chips, blanch first. Okay?
So you blanch them whole or you blanch them in pieces?
pieces. You want to blanch them in, so the question was, do you blanch them whole or in pieces? If you have a big carrot, you're going to have to blanch it a lot longer. So if you want like, long carrots that, yeah, I mean, so you want to piece them up how you want to use them, and then blanch those, and then put them on the tray and freeze dry them.
When you're doing a soup, do you blanch all of your vegetables that you're going to use in that soup together and then put them on the freeze dry tray? The most effective way?
Depends. So the question was, when I make soup in our business, do I blanch everything and then put them together? Depends on the soup. Like I just made chicken noodle soup, big batch. I just started with my broth. I threw my noodles in it, and I threw my carrots and my celery in it, and then I sauteed my onions and put in it because I like that flavor. It's a little bit deeper flavor. But by the time I simmered that and the noodles were done, then it really kind of cooked my carrots precisely how I want them. Not too much, but enough to where they have a little bit of crunch without being, oh, this isn't ready, okay? Other things like minestrone soup, I don't do that. I blanch everything first and then throw it all together. Squash, because zucchini squash in minestrone soup, it's really delicate, so you want to be careful to put it in the very last because it's going to cook in seconds, and so otherwise that squash is just going to disintegrate. Very good question. Any others? All right, let's move on. I got cranberries. What cranberries can you not freeze dry? It's probably a bad question. There's a certain cranberry sauce. Okay, it shouldn't even be at the table. But anybody who likes cranberry sauce out of a can, you can't freeze dry it. It's like a jam or a jelly. It's all sugar. It's just not going to work well. It's like freeze drying Jell-O. But if you make your own cranberry sauce from scratch with real cranberries, there's still quite a bit of sugar in it, but it does freeze dry pretty well. And when you reconstitute it, it does work pretty well. Again, depends on your recipe and what you put in it. You'll just have to try it. So cranberry sauce, like the jiggly stuff, don't even try it. Real cranberries with that's made out in cranberry sauce works pretty good. Craisins? Well, they're almost already there anyway, but yeah, I mean you can craisins have moisture in them, and that's why they're soft. It's kind of like the same difference between freeze drying and dehydrating. Thank you. I had a dehydrating. So dehydrating, you can get about 95% of the moisture out of it, but that's about it. With freeze drying, you can get almost 100% of the moisture, and that's why everything's so crumbly. So. What's that?
You have to cut the cranberries or just throw them on a tray?
Very good question. So the question was, do you have to cut the cranberries? So any fruits that have a skin on them, which are grapes, blueberries, cranberries, plums, dates, anything that has that skin. So that skin is a protective mechanism to keep fruit from drying out while it's growing, which means water's not coming out or going back in. So you have to either cut, poke fruits. Now raspberries, I mean, I've spent so many nights taking and poking every one of those little nodules so that it would. Isn't that what you guys do? It takes all night just to do a couple raspberries. No, I mean raspberries, blackberries. You're just gonna have to do a lot. It's just gonna take a long time.
I have not poked any of them and they freeze dried great.
Any of what?
Raspberries and blackberries.
Yeah, you can't. So they just take longer.
Yeah.
And they're not quite as thick-skinned as like grapes or craisins.
But I do put them in longer.
But
But they've done awesome.
yeah, no, it works. And blueberries work too. It's just gonna, but you
I
gotta,
have to poke them.
yeah, you
Yes,
it's
I
gotta,
do not.
you just gotta do it a long time. So yeah, if you can poke them, yes.
On plums, if you cut them in half, take the stone out, freeze them, then are they ready to go?
We have done.
You don't have to poke the skin after you.
No, once you have broken that open, like grapes, if you cut it in half, I mean, you just need to expose the flesh for that vacuum to pull out that water. So that's like with blueberries. In fact, I brought, this is what a lot of people use for blueberries. And it's a meat tenderizer. So if you hold this back and just, poke, does it pretty well. Yes.
Do you have to do that for peas as well?
Peas are a little bit different because they come in a pod and that's their protective shell. So peas have a skin, but they freeze dry actually pretty well but if you want to poke them, you can. But no, they do pretty well. Corn does pretty well because when you separate it, it has the little end, where it attaches to the cob. So when you pull that off, there's no skin there. And so all you need is, one puncture, like on a blueberry. You just need one of those to puncture it because under vacuum, it's going to pull that out. It's like a tire that's been poked with a nail. That air is coming out. So under vacuum pressure, it'll pull that moisture out. Because when we're freeze drying, we're talking about molecules, right? Water molecules, not water droplets. We're pulling out molecules at a time. So you don't need a very big hole. Okay? All right, it's time to get to dessert. What desserts can you freeze dry? Let me go up here. Okay. So we've covered most of the cans. So turkey, potatoes, yams, sweet potatoes, stuffing, gravy, vegetables, pumpkin pie, ice cream. We talked about ice cream earlier. The things you cannot or shouldn't freeze dry: jams and jellies. So just put them back in the jar. Butter, turkey, dark meat, and especially the skin. You can freeze dry the dark meat, but again, it's not going to last very long. And if you do freeze dry it, put it in a separate bag. Cranberry sauce, we talked about that. Salads. There's so many different salads, I didn't even want to list them all. Obviously, green salads are not going to rehydrate well. But things like potato salad. Why can't you do potato salad? What's mayonnaise, right? It's what?
Oil.
It's all oil. So it won't hydrate well. It won't freeze dry well. And all the other salads out there.
But you can put all of your ingredients that you would make in a potato salad and then add the mayo and everything later, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can leave out the mayo and just do the potatoes and eggs and whatever, onions and whatever and have a potato mix. Absolutely.
How do hard-boiled eggs freeze dry? Do they freeze dry pretty good?
They're awesome.
Are they really?
Yeah, I
Do it because I did them. They were like plastic.
yeah.
They were horrible.
You want to make sure you don't overcook your eggs though. So, and eggs are something that is, it's kind of like pasta. You can overdo it, underdo it. You need to get it just right. And you need to figure out with the eggs that you get, what's a good one to rehydrate? Now, you're not going to take deviled eggs, right? And freeze dry those and have them rehydrated and go, oh, they're great. But if they're chopped up in a salad, you'll never know.
That's what I did, but what did I do wrong? They were awful. They were like plastic. And we tried to hydrate them. We did them with the mayo to make an egg salad sandwich, and it was just like plastic, the yellow, or the yolk, or the white.
The whites.
The yolks does great, or the eggs, you mix them up, they do great. But those boiled ones, they was awful.
Comment back here?
Did you rehydrate them in boiling water?
We did. We
So-
tried that, and we just, they were awful. I don't know what I did.
So my thought is that if you have an initial hard-boiled egg that might have been perfect when you freeze dried it, afterwards, if you then reconstituted it in boiling water, you possibly cook that egg white again, making it kind of rubbery.
We tried it different ways. We
Okay.
tried it, we hydrated it that way. Sorry. And then it turned out like plastic. So then I just put the mayo in it and was kind of adding to it and trying to get, and put a little bit of milk, and it still just stayed like plastic. It was awful.
Smaller pieces work better than larger pieces. Not knowing how you did or what eggs did. Sometimes one batch will turn out and others won't. All depends on your recipe and different things. So there's just too many factors.
Try 'em again.
Try them again and let me know.
Maybe do it slow, like you said about the potatoes.
I did.
You did.
Yeah, we tried. I did a lot. I did like the 4 trays, so I had a lot, and we just kept trying to do different ways with them, and they still were the same. So I just said I'm done and threw them away.
Yeah, and some things just aren't worth it. So, like I said up here, can't or shouldn't, right? Some things, yeah, you can freeze dry it, but if you want it to be, I suppose if we were in a drought situation and there was no other food, you would have eaten it just happily, right?
Yeah.
But for something just to say, you come home from church on Sunday and it's like, oh, let's just have some potato salad, and it's like, that's not going to work. But so, yeah, it all depends on what you're going to use it for and how desperate you are to eat it. Okay? Yeah.
So what's the butter powder that I see advertised everywhere?
So
you can't
most
freeze
butter powder, it's done with commercial machines, and they've taken out all the good stuff, all the oils, the fats, and it's basically non-dairy butter powder. I mean, some of it'll say real butter, but they've processed it to the point where there's no oil in it. There's no fat in it.
What is it?
Well, you have to read the ingredients on that because everyone's different. So we bought a can of it, a number 10 can of it, because my wife says I cannot live without my butter. So I don't know how much butter's in it, but right? Yeah, it's for emergencies only. There you go. Instant butter powder. So it says ingredients: butter, cream, salt, non-fat dry milk, buttermilk, sodium citrate, beta carotene, uses color, citric acid, vitamin E. So that's pretty much what's in this. What you can't do is do, it's a great brand. What you can't do is in your home freeze dryers, you can't put a cube of butter in it and have it turn out. So, okay. And then obviously breads. Yes.
I like juices, and I like for preparedness to be able to backpack light by carrying juices without the water. That would be very light, and I could
Yeah.
carry a lot. So how do I freeze dry a lot of juices like cranberry juice and orange juice and all of the juices?
So what I would do that way, if you were making, I would just take whole fruits, put them in a blender, blend it up, and pour that on a tray, and then freeze dry that. And now you have like a smoothie powder. So you can put protein stuff in it like asparagus or spinach, and make a green smoothie. And that's how I would do juices, is blend it with a lot of stuff and make a smoothie out of it.
Could I get bottled juices, just plain juice, and freeze dry it?
You can, you're not going to get anything. There's just so much water in it. You're going to put, if you have a medium, you're going to put 4 cups of orange juice in it and get about 3 tablespoons of powder.
That's what I want, so I could reconstitute it to 4 cups of orange juice.
There you go. Then good, it's a lot of work for a little bit. Versus if you used oranges, if you bought, a box of oranges and a variety of fruit and put them in a blender, blended it up, you're going to get a lot more yield for your orange juice than if you bought powder. Does that, or if you freeze dried orange juice. So there's just a lot of water in it. So do it that way, or either way. That's how I do it. Okay. Do you have a favorite juice, just orange juice, or?
Well, I'm thinking for preparedness, if you're carrying everything in a backpack and you want the minimum amount of weight, I'm liking that it's just a small amount. And then I add my water.
Yeah.
And then I have my juice with all the nutrition.
Well, in that case, if it's for backpacking and you're really looking at nutrient value, if you're using store-bought juice, it's been pasteurized, it's been watered down, sugar's been added to it. There's not a lot of nutrition in it, mostly just sugar. But if you want it for energy, use real fruit, add spinach or some green leafy vegetable to it, so it has some protein, and it'll be more like a meal. So that's my recommendation. Anybody else? Awesome. Okay, so let's get to dessert. We're coming up on the hour, and I want to make sure we get to questions and so forth. So what do we got? Cheesecake? Who's freeze-dried cheesecake before? What, do you like it? It's awesome. I brought these so everybody could have a piece. Would everybody like one? So we'll have a little dessert. So I didn't bring any cups. So you don't have any well,
We have
or
little
just a
sample
tweezer.
cups.
We can just hand them out or something. Not tweezers, but so yes.
Doesn't it have too much dairy or fat in it for the
You can
freeze
never
dryer?
have too much dairy in cheesecake.
I mean, to freeze dry it well.
Again, it's like ice cream and many other things like that. It's not going to last for 30 years. But if you want to have just pieces of cheesecake to eat, over the next couple months or whatever, just a piece on, it's awesome.
That's
right?
going to get us through any emergency.
Right. We're hoping our emergencies are a couple weeks, but yeah.
So have you covered chocolate? Does that freeze dry okay?
Chocolate freeze dries, but not okay. You cannot change the structure of chocolate because it has so much oil in it. We take milk duds and caramel M&Ms and freeze dry them all the time. But it's not going to last. The chocolate's going to, what happens is like on the caramel M&Ms, it just explodes the caramel piece, doesn't alter the chocolate, but it gives you a really cool snack. But eventually that chocolate's going to go rancid. If you've ever had a Snickers bar, and I say Snickers bar because it's happened to me, is you go into a convenience store and you grab the last Snickers in the box, you get it out to your car, you open it up and it's a little white. That chocolate's rancid. It's probably been on that shelf for a while, 6 months or more. And I ate it anyway. But, yes.
So your example of cheesecake, how long would that last? Just in a jar, you don't have to, you just eat it for a while and it'll be okay. Just
Be great.
keep it sealed when you're done.
Yeah, again, depends on how the humidity of your house and but you know, if you open it up, took a piece out, ate it, you know, snacked on it, it probably lasts for a month or so before you start feeling a little moisture loss. Now, if you put it in an airtight container, you know, ones that, you know, pump out or something like that, it probably lasts a little bit longer. But, you know, if the kids get in it and leave the lid off for a while, you know, but it's pretty dense. So it's not like strawberries slices that's, you know, you give it a few hours and, or half a day and they're starting to get mushy again. So, but let's,
We have this in our tongs.
we can just do it like,
You want to dump it in there and then keep
yeah, if it grosses you out, don't take one, but otherwise just grab the one you touch and
Or we could do like this.
well, there you go. So desserts that you can freeze dry. You can absolutely do cheesecakes. You can do pumpkin pie. If you like pumpkin pie, take the whipped cream off and just you can cut it up. The easiest way to cut it up is just get some fishing twine and cut it up. It doesn't stick to your knife and you don't get that mess, right?
With the crust.
Yeah, with the crust. Yeah, the crust gives it, you got crust on yours? Yeah, it's gives it a little crunch, doesn't it?
Darren, how thick should the pumpkin pie slices be when you freeze dry it?
So you can freeze dry a whole pumpkin pie if you want. It's just going to take a long time. And what are you going to do with it? You're going to have this great big cookie, right? I recommend if you look at these pieces, they're pretty small. I mean, they're bite size, right? So I would say no thicker than a ½ inch to make them enjoyable. And then they freeze dry really fast. This cheesecake that I bought, I just bought it at Sam's Club or Costco. I can't remember which one I got. What's that?
You said you bake everything.
Anything on this table was store bought. But you know, it's for demonstration purposes only.
Well, it was good. So where did you get it? Where did the cheesecake come from?
Oh no, the cheesecake. I've been eating the cheesecake because I only did half of it, and I've been eating the rest of it at home. So the cheesecake's good. But
Where did you buy it? Is what I'm saying.
is it a Costco one? Was it Sam's Club? Sam's Club, I think. And it's actually pretty good. It's a little blue box about this big. Yes.
I have the answer. I know how long the jar of cheesecake pieces would last if I had it. About a ½ hour.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so other pies that don't do very well are pecan pie. I mean, you can do a pecan pie, but obviously the nuts, you can't freeze dry nuts. They're just full of oils, and that's why you can't do peanut butter. But if you wanted to put a different texture to them and you know, keep them around through the holidays for a couple months, you'd be fine. Banana cream doesn't do really well. What other pies do you have? Mincemeat? Apple, yeah, works fine. There's a lot of sugar in the filling, so depending on your recipe will determine how well it does. But it's actually pretty good. What other kind? Any other kind? Other desserts? Any fabulous desserts out there that we have on Thanksgiving? Apple crisp. That'll work. That works pretty well. It all depends on your sauce. If it's going to actually dry or not. Water and sugar, they do not like to separate themselves. So if you have a binder in it or something it may be very difficult to get it dry. So again, it depends on your recipe, but try it. Yeah, throw it in. I think apple crisp should do relatively well. Anything else?
What about roast?
Roast?
Yeah, like rinse roast so it doesn't go rancid fast with all the fat.
So I do pork loin all the time. And pork loin's really lean, doesn't have a lot of fat on it. Slice it in about half-inch thick. And then, and I did this in one of my classes a couple years ago, is I took about 6 slices of pork loin. I fried them, and then I rehydrated them in for the class. So what I did is in the morning, I put them in like a brown gravy and in a crock pot and just let them simmer all day long and rehydrate. And you could not tell. The class was going, no way, you just made this. I was like, nope, this has been simmering. So meats like that and proteins you can do very well. I don't recommend non-cooked proteins. I do eggs, and that's the only thing I do raw. But I don't do any meats, any chicken. Can you do it? Absolutely, no problem. But if the power goes out and we have an emergency and all you have is raw chicken in a bag, you gonna eat it? No, you're gonna have to cook it. First, you're gonna have to rehydrate it. Then you're gonna have to cook it. Power's out, so now you're using your precious resources. So if you're doing food storage, I would not do anything that you couldn't eat out of the bag. If you had the pork loin, you could still eat it. It might be a little dry, but you could still get the nutritional value out of it. If it's cooked, I would cook it.
In the can?
Oh, it's already cooked in the can.
What, freeze dry it in the can?
We'll take it out of the can.
Well, I know, but tuna that comes in can, not ahi tuna. That's roll it in rice and have it. You know. But I don't like tuna anyway, so it's not a good question for me. Well, yeah, that's because we had bought the sleeves of it from Costco, and it was, I think, getting close to the date, so we just freeze dried it. And yep.
What about ground beef and like sausage and stuff cooked, not raw, but cooked ground beef, cooked sausage? Do you rinse it first and then freeze dry it? Is it good to freeze dry it, or is it not?
So the question was basically how do I prepare meats, right, for freeze drying? So what have you seen out on, who's watched YouTube on how to do like sausage or hamburger, ground beef?
My
Anybody?
daughter used to do ground beef. She would cook it, but she did once salt it, and she said when she did again, not salt it, because it made it too salty after it was freeze dried. But she would cook it, brown it, and then she'd rinse it really, really good. And then she freeze dried it, and it freeze dried beautiful.
Well, it'll freeze dry beautifully without rinsing it.
What was it?
Ground beef.
Ground beef.
So we're talking about processing ground beef and what's the right way or what's the best way or to do it. So the most popular way is to rinse it. I don't agree with that. Well, you're rinsing your flavor off. You're basically, and if you have a piece of ground beef as big as your thumbnail, how are you getting the grease out of that? So you're not really improving your situation any.
Press it and rinse it.
What's that?
Press it and rinse it.
So this is how in my book, I explain this is how I do it. Is so I will only use 90+% lean ground beef. And as you fry it, I will turn my skillet on an angle when it's about done. And anything will start coming off of that. Now, if you're using 90% plus, you may, if you're lucky, get a tablespoon of grease out of it. Then I pull it out and I put down a couple layers of paper towel. I'll put a pound of ground beef on it, and then I'll put more paper towels on top of that. I'll take my rolling pin and I will roller it. And then I will change out my paper towels and do it again. And usually I only have to do it twice if it's really lean. If you're using 88 or 85 or even 80, you may have to do it 2, 3, 4 times to get your paper towels so that they do not have grease on them. And that's the only way you're going to get grease out of the bigger chunks. Is
for a higher, like a longer shelf life.
yes, if you want to maximize the shelf life of ground beef or sausage, I mean, obviously sausage is made with fat, and you know, it's not going to last as long as ground beef. But if you if you do that for ground beef, you're going to get 20 years out of your ground beef. Okay. Yeah. You. If I get 20 years out of my supply, I'm going to be golden, right? All right. Yes.
So what I did was I bought the 90. Oh, I bought the 90
Okay.
and then I rinsed it and then I added taco seasoning, hoping that would like make it taste better. So I'm just wondering how it's going to taste someday. I don't know.
So we did the same thing when we started freeze drying. We made a whole bunch of taco meat. And then we got thinking, why did we do that? Because now we have to have tacos. We can't have like,
Tacos are delicious.
oh, they are delicious, but you know, we just limited our options, right? So it's like, well, let's just do ground beef because we have lots of taco seasonings. And if we need to add taco seasoning to it for tacos, or we could use it in a stew or something different, then our options are greater. So it'll taste great. It'll be awesome. Now, one thing I recommend for everybody is test your food storage. So once a month, have a family dinner and say, okay, we're going to go downstairs or we're going to go in the storage room. Everybody pick out something to have for dinner and start at the oldest, your oldest stuff. And it may be 6 months old, it may be 3 years old, it may be 10 years old, but start at the oldest stuff and then cook it and prepare it. It does 2 things for you. One, it validates whether you did a good job, whether it's still good. And also it gets you used to using it. I've talked to so many people that I've asked, well, how's your food storage? Oh, it's great. We got lots of it. Well, how's it taste? Never tried it. Well, that's funny. So if you're freeze drying your own food, you should be making things that you eat every day. So going down and using your food storage and making a meal out of it should not be an issue, right? It tells you whether you're going to freeze dry hard-boiled eggs anymore, right? Or, I mean, what if you did a whole bunch of hamburger and it's bad, but you found out during a emergency? Not a time to find out if your food storage is bad. I think back in the early days of my freeze drying and thinking, boy, did I get that all the way dry? You know, was I sure? Because I wasn't, you know, I was just starting. So that's why you want to go test and make sure that what you did is still in good shape. Yes.
Herbs and seasonings. Do you make all your own herbs and seasonings and freeze dry them?
Do I? So the question was, do I make herbs and seasonings? So I've done onion powder and a few things that I use a lot of. I know a lot of people that do lots of herbs.
Oregano, parsley.
Absolutely. And that's the best way to do it, really. And your freeze dryer is excellent at doing those types of things. In fact, a few years ago when I started the home service program for Harvest Right, where I come out to your home and fix, they said, yeah, come on in and we'll certify you. So I went in and the first day there, they said, okay, start working on that machine. And so I go over there and I open the door and it's like, woo, what was in this freeze dryer? I look at the ticket, it said Oregon, and it's marijuana. And the guy says, yeah, we get them all the time. In fact, the marijuana producers in Oregon are some of their biggest customers because they freeze dry all of it because it's very The leaves are very fragile, and then they grind it up, and it's legal there. So don't try it at home. Don't try it here. So
I would buy cilantro. I bought cilantro all the time, and I'd only use some of it, and then it'd sit in my fridge, and it'd go bad, and I'd have to throw it away. And then so now I use what I use, and then I freeze dry the rest, and then now I have cilantro all the time in my cupboard.
yes, yeah, and it's fresh, or it's all cilantro. If you look at certain spices and things, they have a lot of just salt and fillers in it, dextrose, wood pulp,
Just like
right?
with garlic and everything, you can just put it in the food processor and have your garlic, your onions, because
Mm-hmm.
there are, when you look at the label of even garlic, it has a list of things that aren't even garlic in it.
Right. If you look at the Kraft Parmesan cheese in the green bottle, look at the ingredients on that. More than likely, it's 30% wood pulp. Check it out. Go look at the ingredients. It's
Parmesan cheese.
what's that?
Your own Parmesan cheese. Can you do your own Parmesan cheese? 'Cause
Absolutely.
Cheese is good too. You're good because
I recommend buying chunks of cheese, grating it yourself, because then you don't have all the starches and stuff in it. And grated cheese that you buy in the big bags, they don't stick together because if you look on the ingredients, there's starches that's added to it. So if you don't like that, dextrose and all those things, then buy your own chunks. Now, you have to be a little bit more tender with it because it doesn't have the non-stick stuff, right? So you have to really be careful. But cheese will rehydrate really well.
Well, how do you rehydrate it?
Yes.
She asked how you rehydrate it and
How do you rehydrate cheese?
and how long would it last? Is my question.
Last.
Freeze dried cheese.
Freeze dried? Depends. Pepper jack is different than cheddar, than a cheese that's made with low fat versus regular milk. So again, it's one of those hard questions depending on what cheese you're talking about.
So is it better to do a low fat cheese to
Low fat cheese will last longer. You'll get years out of it.
low fat Parmesan, low fat everything, and then okay.
Yeah, you'll get a lot longer out of it. The less oils and fats it has in it. Low fat cottage cheese lasts a long time. Absolutely.
And do you just add water?
But use the large curd. Try to get the large curd cottage cheese because it breaks down a little bit as you stir it up.
My daughter loved it for that lasagna. She freeze dried it.
Yeah. We put cottage cheese in our lasagna entree that we produce. It does really well.
Online question is, when you freeze dry something, do you have to bring it down to room temperature before you bag and put it away?
Yes. So, what happens if you put something hot in a bag? You get condensation, right? The inverse is true with if you put something really cold in a bag, then you get condensation. So, and I want to come back to the cheese because I know somebody said, how do you reconstitute cheese? So don't let me forget, okay? So I'll finish this point, we'll come back. So, what point were we on? Condensation. Oh, bagging. So if you leave something in overnight and your batch finishes at 2 a.m. in the morning, does sound familiar to most people? And then you get up in the morning and the machine has frozen your food, right? It's really cold. It's like 10 below. It's done that to protect your food so it doesn't get wet. So you should take it out, dump it in a bowl, let it come to room temperature, and then bag it up. Okay? So then you won't get condensation. So answer the question, it should be bagged at room temperature. I mean, give and take a few degrees, it's not going to be an issue, but if it's frozen or if it's just right out and it's really hot, then just let it sit for a few minutes. Because there's no moisture in it, it'll come to room temperature in 5-6 minutes. I mean, it's just really easy. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Hi. I have a question about what, when you've got your freeze dryer going and then your dehydrator is sitting there, empty, but you've got this big Thanksgiving dinner. Is there some things that you could actually put on the dehydrator that you would suggest that do better, you know?
The difference with dehydrators and freeze dryers, I mean, it's a night and day difference. So it all depends on what you want. It's kind of like, would you freeze dry jerky? I wouldn't, because I don't like crunchy jerky. I like a little moist jerky that just kind of rips off, right? So I use a dehydrator for that because I want some moisture in it. So I would never freeze dry jerky. So it's really more of a preference thing. You're going to damage cellular structure on a dehydrator more than a freeze dryer. So if you dehydrate strawberries, they're going to look like craisins. They're going to shrivel all up. You're going to destroy the cell structure. But in a freeze dryer, because the cell structure is frozen in place and it's pulling out the moisture and molecules, the structure stays. And so it looks beautiful and nice and fluffy. And so if you like raisins, dehydrate. If you like crunchy stuff, you know, where all the moisture's out, then freeze dry.
I have a question.
Follow-up question? On,
Oh, she has to ask. You need to answer a question about cheese first.
okay, let me come back. There's a couple over here. Yeah.
Okay. Just real quick, you mentioned when it finishes at 2 a.m. and it's really cold, you put it in a bowl. What about just putting extra dry time on it and then letting it come up to temperature that way?
Sure. Sure. And the newer software, you can warm the trays and you can heat it back up. But the problem I have with that is if you start warming the trays, you create heat around ice and then you get humidity. So I just rather take it out, put it in a bowl and not risk forgetting it and then getting a drip on my food and then having to do the batch again.
Make ground beef last the longest shelf life. You could do what I've learned to do. I'll get back to it, but when I see bell peppers on sale, I'll get a whole lot of them. Then I'll get corned beef, and I'll take the corned beef to the butcher and say, I want ground corned beef. And he'll say, problem with that is it's going to push out the beef he's been grinding, the hamburger he's been grinding before it even gets to the ground beef. He said, but I'm doing a lot of it and I want to buy ground beef also. So he says, oh, no problem. So he runs the corned beef through, he separates out what came out before that, and then he runs some more beef through, and then his machines has ground beef in it. But I've got the mix. I mixed all up and stuffed my bell pepper. The reason why I mention that is the butchers, they're fine with that, especially if you're doing a large batch, if you just want a little bit, but I'm doing a whole lot. So if you want the longest lasting freeze-dried ground beef, what you do is similar. You tell the butcher, I want you to grind up these lean steaks and make ground beef out of it and package up what comes out first. And I'll cook that for meals, but you'll have your batch of 100% no fat steaks ground up. And then he could run some more hamburger through. He could buy what's mixed that comes out and cook that up for a meal. But the in between that's 100% lean, you could use that for the freeze drying for the 25-year shelf life.
Yeah, and that's actually a great point. And that's what we do at Wasatch Freeze Dry. We sell number 10 cans of ground chuck. It's not hamburger. Hamburger has whatever slides off, and if you've seen the pink slime commercials, right? Whatever's left. So we have a company in Salt Lake that does just ground chuck, and it's almost 98% lean, and that's what we sell in our number 10 cans. What's that?
Who's the company?
Main Street.
Yeah, he's my boyfriend. I'm just teasing.
Okay, cheese. You question first or cheese?
Well, there's an online question.
Okay, let's do that, and then we'll come to cheese.
Their online question was, can you freeze dry raw honey?
No, not even cooked honey. Why would you want to? Because honey, they have found honey in Egyptian tombs that's 2,000 years old. So there's no reason to do honey.
I've seen honey powder.
Yeah.
I know it's not real honey though.
Yeah, read the direction, read what's in it. But when you cook honey, when you pasteurize honey, it kills all the enzymes in it. So it's not a healthy thing. So if you get honey straight from the hive, it's great for medicinal purposes. It's great for allergies. If you're allergic to things, have a tablespoon of honey that from bees right as close to you as possible, and your allergies will go away. I'm not a doctor, but it works for me. You can research your own, but yeah, I would not do anything to honey. Yes.
Well, we got to know about cheese, but eggs, like, because salmonella and then freeze drying raw eggs, what, like, because if you leave them out, if you, like, what is, for salmonella purposes, how do you prepare those and how do you make sure that you're not going to get salmonella from freeze drying raw eggs?
Okay, so let's go cheese and eggs with salmon, right? Okay, so cheese, two types of cheese, grated cheese and sliced cheese. Do both of them the same way. So you can, either once you freeze dry it, you can put it on your tray, the grated cheese, you can stack it up because it's really light and airy, and then bag it up. When you go to rehydrate it, take a paper towel, moisten it, put it on a plate, put a layer of cheese, grated cheese, put another moist paper towel down and layer it up as much as you need. Put it in the fridge overnight and it'll be perfect in the morning.
Put it on my taco meat.
Huh?
Or my kids eat that.
Yeah.
They won't survive the apocalypse.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So now the trick is don't get the paper towel too wet or your cheese is going to get a little slimy, right? So it's you have to do it a couple times. So that's why you should be going down and making sure that you know how to manage your food storage. But yeah, just don't wring it dry, but don't have it dripping wet either. So just kind of wring it, put it out like you're going to wipe your kid's face, and then just stack them up and just put it in the fridge overnight, and it'll be perfect. You can do the same thing with, what's that?
Put it in a bag. Just leave it open in the fridge.
You should never put cheese in a plastic bag, right? Right? But we all do it, don't we? Don't look at my fridge, but I think my cheese is in a plastic bag. But no one wraps their cheese up in the appropriate thing, right? Cheese is parchment paper. You're supposed to store cheese in parchment paper. Europeans will get mad at us Americans for using all of our plastics, right? But cheese should breathe, and that's why it goes moldy fast, because you put it in plastic and it doesn't breathe. If you put it in parchment paper and put it in your fridge, it'll last a lot longer. Okay, so I think we had one more. Oh yeah.
Yeah, everyone needs to know.
The raw eggs and salmon, right?
Not salmon, but salmonella.
That's the same thing. Okay. Salmonella. So in my book, I explain this a little bit on the different molds and bacteria and viruses and different things that you can get. Note, your freeze dryer does not get hot enough to kill anything. So whatever you put in it, you're going to eat. So remember that cat that was out in your backyard that walked across your countertop and then you're eating that. Sorry. The fan in your kitchen that has lint balls this thick that's falling into your food, you're eating that. It doesn't kill anything. When you buy salmon, eggs, that or you leave them out or they touch something, or you're doing raw chicken here and you're breaking eggs over here and you cross-contaminate something and get any cross-contamination, you're eating that. There's no way around it. So as you're prepping, make sure your surface areas are clean, your knives are clean. Anything like that that would cause, a contamination. If you buy eggs that are already, I mean, you won't know it. But when you go to eat them, years later, days later, whatever, it'll be there. It'll be there.
So there's not a temperature you can bring them up to. There's not anything. And the minute you pull them out of the freeze dryer, my husband's like, "Oh, put it in the food processor right now. We'll get them done." And then yeah, because he thinks that's going to prevent salmonella.
Well, yeah, I mean, processes and manufacturers like myself, that's what we do. We have processes that we follow to where we clean this and we sterilize that and we make sure that that stuff doesn't creep into our food. We have what we call SOPs, standard operating procedures, that we have to follow by. At home, do you guys have manuals for home for how you, I mean, who knows what happens at home. So just know that you have to be very careful so that you don't cross-contaminate. So eggs, I have thousands of eggs in my personal food storage. And it's the only thing raw that I have. Why? There's very little chance that I have that in my food storage. Is a possibility? Sure, but I'm very careful. But it's something, eggs are high in protein. They take very little resources to cook. You can cook them with a little solar oven just like that.
Mixes, brownie mixes. So it's a tablespoon of egg,
Yep.
a tablespoon of water.
Yep, you can have your French toast and everything, right? So that's the one thing that I have that I have lots of. And so, did that answer your question? Yes.
When you spoke of bringing the cheese up to room temperature before you bag it, does that go for all freeze-dried food, meat, or anything?
Yeah, so the question was, do I bring all foods up to room temperature when I bag it? Absolutely. Condensation is no, there you go, no respecter of food. So if it's cold, if it's hot, just make sure it's within, a few degrees. But like I said, with no moisture in the food, it will come up to temperature very quickly. Okay? All right, we're getting close to 8 o'clock. We'll answer a few more questions and then we'll wrap up. Yes.
Regarding rehydration of cheese with the moist paper towels, it got me thinking, and I thought of what would be a good experiment. I'm pretty sure it would work. Is you could use a dehydrator and put anything you want to rehydrate in, and at the air intake, use one of those ultrasonic humidifiers and let that humidity blow through your dehydrator with your freeze-dried food in it, and I bet it rehydrates.
Possibly, I've never tried it. I do have I have a steam oven that I use to rehydrate breads. If you're careful, it does it really well. So, and delicate things like that, but not everybody wants to buy a steam oven. And so, if it's like bread, either make it fresh or eat it like a crouton. Okay, that's all I have for you tonight. I appreciate you coming out. I want to show you two more things real quick that I have. So I had these made up for me, these shirts. I'm going to have them out on my website if you want one. So freeze dry or die trying, as freeze dryer logos on the back and on the front. So if you wanted a funny shirt, this one, they call me Mr. Freeze. So a t-shirt out there. So if you want a Christmas gift, and then just a regular one with the freeze dryer on the back. We're such a close knit community as far as freeze drying goes. You almost have to have a freeze drying shirt. We don't have any in the industry, right? So anyway, these will be out on my website. If you want one, you can go out to wasatchfreezedry.com and swipe your credit card all you want. So thank you so much. We appreciate our hosts for letting us be here till late, and I will.
You're awesome, Darren.
You have the mic now.
We love having you come. He's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, thanks for coming. Yes, yes. Do you have books up front? Yeah, she has them up front. I can do that. I have cards up here. Does anybody want a card? If you want one for someone else that you know that might want one. And if you ever have a freeze-drying question, you can send me an email or text me. I try to get back to you as soon as I can. Oh, I got plenty. There you go. Everybody get that? Okay, anybody want a mini turkey? Yeah. Yeah. Cellular structure's a little off, but you know.
Did you put that whole thing in your machine, or is it?